The Mitchells vs. the Machines is like really good. It's just like really funny and clever and heartfelt, and it just has an amazing team of people who put their whole hearts into it. I loved it. But the biggest thing that I loved about it was how tightly written it was. The Mitchells vs. the Machines is a perfect example of how 3-act structure is supposed to work. The 3-act structure gets a bad rap for being formulaic and soulless, but The Mitchells vs. the Machines proves that when used correctly, 3-act structure can serve as the perfect vessel for the emotional weight of your story. There are a bunch of versions of 3-act structure, but one of the most famous and my personal favorite is the one outlined by Blake Snyder in his book, Save the Cat. The Mitchells vs. the Machines follows this outline almost to a T, timing and everything. So let's break down why this film works so well and also learn the basics of 3-act structure and how to use it effectively. Obvious spoilers for The Mitchells vs. the Machines. I'm not gonna go in too much detail since I'm gonna assume you've already watched the film, so there's no point in going through things in hyper detail. If you haven't watched it yet, watch it. Please, stop watching this video and go watch it, like right now. Because I'm literally gonna spoil the entire thing. So do yourself a favor and watch it first. If you like Gravity Falls, the Lego Movie, or Spider-Verse, then you're probably gonna like this film too, since a lot of people who worked on those, worked on this one too. It's a lot of fun, so please check it out. If it's not your thing, then why are you watching this video? Also get used to seeing the same clips over and over again, because this film literally just came out and there are like no clips of it online. Alright, let's go. What is 3-act structure? 3-act structure is a technique to organize your story into 3 distinct sections, with the end of each act marked by a major decision by the characters. It's very reliant on Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, which is the oldest story structure pretty much ever, and it shares a lot of the same beats. What are those beats? I'm glad you asked. This is the first thing your audience sees. It should set the tone and introduce us to the characters. We should understand what we're getting into within the first couple minutes. Here you could also state the theme of your story, what this whole thing is all about. You don't have to, but you can. A big chunk of Act 1 is going to be spent setting up the story. Who are the characters? What do they want? How do these characters interact with each other? What's their everyday life like? A big thing to establish here is how these characters are flawed. That way we know how the characters have to change by the end of the film. Then something bad happens. Something changes up the ordinary world forever. Joseph Campbell calls this the call to adventure. The characters then have to debate whether or not they even want to go on the adventure, because adventure is scary and dangerous. Campbell calls this the refusal of the call. But eventually the characters have to decide to go on the adventure, or else there's no story. This decision, what Campbell refers to as stepping through the threshold, is what brings the characters out of their comfortable lives into the world of the unknown, and right into this is typically some kind of love story, but it doesn't have to be a romantic love story. It can be about the relationship between friends, rivals, or even family members, hint hint nudge nudge. Blake Snyder also calls this the promise of the premise. This is where you do all the fun stuff you'd find in the trailers. It's all the stuff that the audience was waiting to see when they heard about what this movie was about. This is the middle of the film, obviously. Usually this is some big win for the characters. It's a taste of victory before recently defeated, the bad guys regroup and start planning a second attack, this time much stronger than before. The heroes continue working toward their goal, but the bad guys get closer and closer until the bad guys eventually get their revenge. This should be the lowest point for all the characters, both in the plot and emotionally. This is the complete antithesis to the midpoint victory. It's what Blake Snyder calls the whiff of death, and what Joseph Campbell calls the abyss. The heroes are in their proverbial belly of the whale. And in this belly of the whale, at the very deepest point in the all is lost moment, is the dark night of the soul, where the characters get a chance to come to terms with their shortcomings and muster up the strength to overcome them. This is where the characters truly decide to become better, which leads us to now, with renewed strength and a new game plan, the characters band together to overcome their problem, meet their goals, and become the people they're meant to be. This is the moment the audience has been waiting for. The final image of the film usually mirrors the opening image. It shows how these characters have grown and changed throughout their journey, and the film can finally end. Okay, so now that we know the beats of Blake Snyder's 3-act structure, let's see how Mike Rianda and Jeff Rowe use this structure, presumably, to write the Mitchells versus the machines. The film opens with the Mitchells running over the robots in their car, and the animation is wacky and over the top. Right away, the audience is told that this is going to be a silly, ridiculous film. We're given an introduction to the Mitchells, and they're dysfunctional as hell. Our main character, Katie, is excited to ditch her family and go to film school. Her dad, Rick, struggles to connect with her. Katie's mom, Linda, is constantly jealous of their seemingly perfect neighbors, and her little brother, Aaron, wants to make friends with someone who will share his love of dinosaurs. In order to reconnect with his daughter, Rick decides to cancel Katie's flight to California and do a cross-country family road trip instead, much to Katie's horror. That all changes when a press conference with massive tech conglomerate PAL goes wrong, and all their robot assistants turn evil and start capturing the humans. The Mitchells are now the only humans left uncaptured. Rick wants to hunker down and wait it out, but Katie motivates him to try to save the world. With the help of 2 defective robots, they head out to the nearest PAL retail store to shut down the evil robots with a kill code. The B story here is the relationship between Katie and Rick, and we see them try to understand each other and meet each other halfway as they go on their road trip. The Mitchells make it to the mall and start downloading the kill code that will stop all the robots, but discover that all the products implanted with PAL chips have come to life, including the nihilistic Furbies. The Mitchells defeat the evil appliances, finally coming together as a family, but their download fails, and now they have to go to Silicon Valley to take on the main computer that controls all of the robots. Meanwhile, the robots start closing in, more hell-bent on finding the Mitchells than ever. We get some more scenes expanding on our main characters and their relationships. After the Mitchells break into the main facility by disguising themselves as robots, Rick finds out that Katie's pep talk from earlier was a ruse, and the family gets separated. Both Katie and Rick each have their own dark night of the soul moments where they realize how much the other really cares about them. This motivates them to fight their way out. The final fight pays off everything we've established throughout the film. Every joke, every character quirk, everything gets paid off. The family owns up to their weirdness and comes together to defeat the evil robots and save humanity. Katie and Rick finally become willing to meet each other halfway, Linda earns the respect of her neighbors, and Aaron makes a new friend who loves dinosaurs. The film ends as a mirror image of the opening, the Mitchells in the car, laughing and enjoying their time together. This is a very simplified version of the plot, but it should give you an idea of how Mike Rianda and Jeff Rowe use the 3-act structure to support their narrative. Do you have to use 3-act structure to write a good movie? Of course not. There is no best structure to use. There are only tools to have in your writing tool belt that you can pull out whenever you need them. What I appreciate about this film is that it uses this simple structure to support the narrative. It's a foundation on which they were able to explore fun characters, clever jokes, and dynamic animation. Is the structure entirely original? No, but the honesty of the film's characters made the story rise above the formula. Every house needs to have the same basic structures to be able to stand. But what makes a house interesting is how it's painted, where to place the windows and decorations, and even more importantly, who are the people that live inside it. Say what you will about 3-act structure, but it works. Blake Snyder's Save the Cat method gets at the most human, visceral, emotional reactions an audience can have. Sure, it's a pattern, but it's a pattern that works. This might be a hot take, but I don't think sticking to an established structure is an inherently bad thing. A structure is just a structure. It can't replace strong characters and vibrant personalities and clear beliefs and goals. If you have that, if you have characters with honest wants, emotions, and relationships, then I don't care if I've seen your structure before. And that's what the Mitchells versus the Machines does best. It's honest. It came from a sincere place of love and care. And there's no formula for that. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.